Sorry for not posting in a while, but I'll already have a very nice and detailed video planned in the works, and it's going to be about openings. But anyways, while you guys wait for this video, I'm just going to do a quick update on my series Road to 2000. I'm going to show you guys what level I'm at and a couple of my games. Maybe I'll play a game live. So right now, I'm sitting at about 1754. This is a new account. Maybe you guys can follow me if you would like. But I'm just going to show you guys a couple of my games so you guys can understand my thought process and where I'm at right now in my journey. So we will view the games. So my rating right now is pretty high. It might be the highest it's ever been. And we'll take a look at one of a very strange game I had. We'll take a look at that one. So I kind of just show you guys my thought process through the end game, middle game, and opening, obviously. So I play d4. I always plan to play on the London system because that's my opening right now. I would like to switch to d4 or e4, but I'm trying to learn it very thoroughly and before I hop in, because those openings are more theory intensive than the London system. So he plays a move like a5, and if you're familiar with basic opening concepts, you're never supposed to play a5 because these four center squares are very important, and if you control these four center squares, you're basically controlling all the rest of the board, and you'll have the tempo and the flow of the game. So maybe a move like even like just a knight, because that at least blocks up some of these central squares, or usually what people play is a pawn in the middle, because this will contest the central squares and not allow me to get my perfect center. But instead this guy plays 1a5. And this is a very strange move because it kind of does nothing at all. It's a flank opening, it's permanently weakening the queen side, and it's allowing me to get my perfect center. As you can see, the engine eval is already +1. This is a very interesting start to the game. So I grab the center, and I take because I calculated that once I take, and just like in the Scandinavian, he'll take the pawn back with the queen, I can play knight c3 with tempo and gain a tempo on this opponent. So we go through that sequence. I play knight c3 with tempo. I continue to develop. I develop my knights before my bishops, and I just continue to develop. I'm trying to put all my pieces out before I start. And this is where I made a slight inaccuracy. I thought that there was no way for him to chase my bishop, but actually, after the move I made, he could have gone pawn to b5, and then I would have had to sack, because if I had played something like this, he's able to trap my bishop with pawn to a4. So that was one of the inaccuracies that I made. So bishop a4 was not nice. I should have just retreated my bishop back to d3. But unfortunately, he didn't capitalize on the opportunity, and this guy played very strange the entire game. He brings his king out, which is not very good because it doesn't allow him to castle, and it kind of just makes it more exposed. So I was thinking, why is he playing so strange? I'm not going to allow him to win this game if he's playing in such a strange way. So what I'm trying to do is, because now there's literally like a huge pin. The knight is pinned to the king, then the king is pinned to the queen. So this bishop is extremely strong. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to pile up pieces onto this vulnerable knight, because if this knight falls down, then his entire position will crack. So with this, I play knight to e4 because it's attacking this knight on f6. So he tries to go for defense, which is probably the best, well, not the best move, because the best move of the entrance is just kicking the bishop, but it was one of the only ways to defend directly. So I continue. I just castle because I'm trying to get my rooks out and my queen to attack this piece. He plays another move which is just absolutely terrible. It removes the defender from the knight, which is the crucial piece in his position. So I capitalize on this. I continue to attack, and my idea was to trade off these pieces so that there wouldn't be a defender on this knight and I could take it. So he plays another bishop, desperately trying to defend this knight, and finally I bring my last piece in after I trade off these knights, and his only move was king to f8. And you might be thinking, why can't he just continue to defend this knight? Because what happens is, if he plays anything else, let's just play some random move. The thing is, we have knight takes knight, bishop takes bishop, and then finally even if you don't see the mate in 2, which is not what I was thinking in the game, but I'm just realizing that it's a mate in 2 because I didn't look at this game with an engine before this video. You have this beautiful check, fork, and skewer. So like 2 tactics in 1. And you're able to pick up the rook or the queen. We're obviously going to pick up the queen because it's higher value. So that's exactly why he had to play king f8. So he's already in a terrible position. He's moved his king twice just in the middle game and opening. So right now there was a couple tactics I could have played, but this was fairly a simple win. From this position, I just trade off all the pieces, and we see the bishops going. He plays this move, just simply attacking the rook. He could have literally gone anywhere and he would have saved it. Instead, he plays a random move, and I'm able to pick up the bishop, and he resigns at this point. So yeah, that's just my kind of lesson on how to punish bad opening play and strange opening play. Now let's take a look at a game that I lost. Because I always like to show my losses, because you can learn much more from a loss than you can from a win. Because all you learn from a win is just not as much strategies or thought process or things that you can actually figure out to fix your game. But in a loss, you definitely can. Okay, let's go to maybe my worst rated defeats. I liked this game, I believe. I think this was a nice lost game. So we see d4, d5. I go for my token London system. Basically my pet land at this point. I don't really like this move that people play knight c6. I don't think it's a terrible move, but it allows bishop b5 later in the game, and it blocks the c5 pawn, which is the main weapon of black to put pressure on this d4 pawn. So I don't really know why people play this, but I mean, it is a move. It's not a terrible move. Maybe in an e4 opening, this pawn wouldn't have been guarded by this queen, so it's a little bit more strong, but I don't really get it in this position. So simply, he develops. I always like to play knight bd2 in this position, where they try to put pressure on my knight, because that helps so that I'm not taking with the pawn and doubling my pawns, but instead I'm just taking with the knight and just putting my knight back in the place that it was. So he just, trying to get his dark square bishop out. He plays a kind of strange move, e6. I don't really understand the idea. Maybe he's just reinforcing the center, but it seems like developing his pieces would have been much smarter. So here I just play bishop b5. Everything's fine till here, and I see bishop g3. He plays queen to d7, kind of just like backwards moves. There's really no point, because this just makes my pin even stronger, because it's pinning 3 pieces right now. Or it's pinning 2 pieces, excuse me. So he tries to kick off my bishop, and the engine says takes. I just wanted to simplify the position, didn't want to get into any bishop traps like you could see in the last game. So I simply take. Queen takes. Then pawn h3. Here I was +2 actually, because there was a very nice idea that I missed. This attacks the queen, and if he takes with the pawn, simply I have this wonderful play with the bishop. He has to block with one of these pieces, and eventually if he blocks with something like the knight, then we have takes. And he has to move the rook, and overall he just has a bad position. So that was a nice idea, but it was kind of hard to calculate, so I missed it. Here he's just kind of trying to make all my pieces get out of the positions that I would like them to be, so I have to oblige to his request. And he again tries to just gain a lot of space, but this is kind of cramping his position. So I take, and this pawn structure looks very ugly compared to my nice pawn structure, which is all connected. So yeah, so now we castle, we move our knight. I'm just trying to maneuver my knight to this very nice square, because that will be able to attack the queen. He instead just pushes, and I think something that I missed was, after a while I was calculating, and I figured out that I can't really take this, because after takes and then takes, there's a check. So I'll show you guys right now, so it's easy to understand. So say I played something like besides what I played, which was actually defending this pawn. Say I played a random move. He will be able to take, and then take, and then take, which would check, and he'd be winning back the pawn, which is something that I had to calculate for a while, but fortunately I saw. So yeah, I play queen d3 to defend the pawn. We trade off the, he doesn't want to trade off the queens, and so I do, which is unfortunately the wrong move in this position. Should have kept the queens on the board, because this is exactly where I lost the game, which is really sad because I usually don't lose this in this position, but that's why this game was very instructive for me. I thought that trading off the queens was just trading off the queens and getting them off the board, but I didn't notice that my king was on this open c file. And this rook could always attack this king, especially if there's a piece like my bishop to pin it. So that's what happens. I trade off the queens, and unfortunately I don't see that after I take, he has this nice pin. And at this point, no matter what I play, he's just winning the bishop. So I just trade off some pieces, move my king, and at this point, it's just a very nice endgame for him. I unfortunately again play a blunder. I thought that it was defended by this pawn, so it would just be a simple trade and it would block off this rook. But unfortunately, there's another bishop and there's two pieces attacking, and I just lose another pawn. And from there, it's completely just a winning endgame. Okay, I'm going to show you guys one more game, and then I will probably be signing off for today. Hope you enjoyed this nice update onto where my play is at. I'm shooting for 1800 by the end of next week or the week after, so I'll make another video if I do reach it. Right now I'm at 1754, which is very nice. So actually I think I remember this user's name because I got sent some very bad messages after I won this game, which is sad, but just the way life works sometimes. So as you can see, one game with me. He was extremely mad after this game, which is sad, but I guess I can understand it. So we played it. I'm just gonna go over this game very quickly because I'm trying to emphasize one idea, and this game is not very important right now. I'll flip the board, I guess, to my side, but basically we see a fine game. It was equal until about move 25. I play a couple blunders, and by move 34, he is completely winning. Like, this is just completely one endgame. It's just nice. He has a rook, I have a rook, but he has much more pawns, and he should be able to easily convert this. But what I'd like to emphasize is never give up, never resign, especially at amateur levels, because you never know when you will get a nice winning chance. So here I just try to attack. He plays a couple blunders, and it goes down to about this is where it becomes equal. So from -2 in a very nice endgame, it becomes completely equal because now instead of having 3 pawns, he just has 1. With the correct play, I have not the most experienced in endgame study, so I might not know how to convert this, but it looked fairly equal. So I just try to move my rook back and just escape the king. He's trying to push the pawn, but of course, I finally play the move that the engine has been recommending for about 5 moves. They really want me to put my rook onto a8 so that I can get to the king. I block off this pawn so I don't allow it to push because then it would be taken by the rook. And we see the king trying to defend. At this point, I didn't see the wonderful idea that allowed me to draw this game, this completely losing game in my eyes because I wasn't very experienced in endgame study. Bam, this check just completely wins. Check, 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 check. For about 20 moves, for about 10 moves straight, I just kept on checking this guy, and that's how I drew this basically losing game. So yeah, you should always look for those ideas, as it can really help you. And this guy was probably mad after the game, but he just has to really understand that even if I didn't see this idea, the end game was actually drawn. So those were very nice games, and I had a couple other wins that really pushed me up to this almost 1800 threshold, but I'll make an update video when I get there. This is Fundamental Tactics Chess. Remember to stay fundamental, stay tactical, and I am signing off. Thank you for watching.